Listen to this episode if you are looking into manufacturers and you want to know whether the manufacturer you're looking at is good or the one that you're using has some red flags that you might be looking away from. Choosing the wrong manufacturer for your business can quietly make very large problems arise as your business scales. I am very pro manufacturer, but sometimes if you choose the wrong manufacturer, you either are choosing one against the values of your business that might come out in the media eventually, or you are choosing a manufacturer that you might not actually be able to scale with. Both can be very major, big problems in your business as you scale. This isn't just picking something willy-nilly, pick the first one you can find. This company has to be able to scale with you, and they really are more of an operational partner. You're going to depend on them for products and restocks. You're going to depend on them with your product to keep your secret and keep your formulas or keep your patterns or whatever it is that you're having them create. This really has to be a relationship that you feel very supported in order for it to be correct. Today, we're really going to dive into some major red flags. We're first going to talk about what the actual 3-step process is. We're going to talk about what makes a good manufacturer. We're then going to talk about a quick vetting checklist. By the end, you'll kind of be able to have a good checklist here, red flags that founders usually ignore. And then we're going to talk about a big mindset change that I do want you to make when it comes to manufacturing. When it comes to manufacturing, I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of thoughts here, a lot of opinions that are very strong. I am very pro manufacturer because I see that there are so many myths out there, and I have full episodes on the myths of manufacturing. But finding a manufacturer can actually make your business feel so much more secure, more sustainable for you, and it unlocks a lot of space for you as the founder to not be having to worry about the products and actually being in-house, which is a really big stressor and actually a very big expense. Why this matters is because a lot of founders choose manufacturers based on the cheapest pricing or just like pure excitement to get it done, maybe the fastest turnaround, whoever responds first and sends a sample first. But you actually can be missing some key factors if that's what you do. Your manufacturer affects quality, customer retention, your profit margin, your shipping timelines, your scalability, and even your brand reputation long term. One bad manufacturing partner can create a really long time of cleanup. And too many people think that getting something manufactured is actually going to be way too tedious, way more expensive, and not worth their time. It is actually the exact opposite. I am very pro manufacturer. Now, I love a handmade business, don't get me wrong, but as you scale, it's very hard to keep things vertically integrated in-house rather than getting something manufactured. So we're going to dive into this today. Before we do, I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. My name is Madison Page. I am a business growth specialist. I work with product-based business owners to make them the next category leader in their industry. And this is the Business Growth Podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. First things first that I want you to do when you're looking at a manufacturer is you have to decide on your non-negotiables. That is number one. There are a lot of different values that you are choosing. I'm not here to tell you which values you should stick by and which ones you should care about. That's your own decision to make based on you, your own values, your business's values. But before you start sourcing, you need clarity on your business values. What does your business stand for? Because not every founder has those same priorities. Some people just care about how low of a minimum order quantity that they can have. Some care about sustainability. Some care about the country that it's manufactured in. Some care about the quality more than others. Some people care about the fastest turnaround and lead times. Some people care about the highest margins, and some people care about ethical labor. Some people care about organic ingredients. Some people care about the exclusivity and the rights that they are giving here. So basically, when you sit down, you need to know what matters to you before you start getting emotionally attached to options, because you need to know which questions to ask in order for you to get the proper answers that you are looking for. So the first step to looking at a manufacturer is saying, what are our business values and what does that mean for our manufacturer? There is a hierarchy of manufacturers out there. Some of them are going to be as cheap and as quick as you can make it out there, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the cheapest option is going to to be the best, especially for your brand reputation. You hear this a lot. The Shein clothing company, someone comes out with an expose of how terrible their manufacturing plants and facilities are. That's the reality of their company, but that doesn't mean that that's the reality of every company. There are good manufacturers out there that abide by the ethics and the standards and the values that you care about, but you just have to know what your values are going in so you can ask the right questions and do your best vetting in that process. So what makes a good manufacturer looks different for everybody, but there are 8 different categories that I want to talk about for things for you to think about when it comes to manufacturing. First things first is a really big one, which is the communication, because you're going to be communicating with these people. And if you're in the US and these manufacturers are based in China, there's a really opposite time zone. So a lot of times you're talking to them in the evenings of your time. You want to know how quickly are they actually going to respond? How much are they really going to be able to be in contact with you? How fast are they responding? Are they clear? Does it seem like they're organized? Do they answer your questions directly? Or are they kind of vague and confusing? You have to be able to work with these people. These really are partners in your business. And so you have to at least semi-enjoy having a conversation with them and have it be an easy, natural process. Now, of course, if things are getting manufactured in a different country, there might be a slight language barrier, but at least having a conversation that is easy is absolutely normal. Just you need to be able to have a company that you can actually talk with and get the answers to your questions. Number one, I would say, how quickly do they respond is a really big one, because you want to be able to say, hey, I have this order coming in. How quickly can you get this out? And they're actually checking their messages very quickly. I would say that's a really big thing that you want to look for. The next one is reliability. Can they consistently hit timelines? One of the major things that I like to ask a manufacturer is, how much can you scale with me? Right now, if I were to need a large order, if I need to double my normal order, is that something that you are able to do? And how quickly will that hit your timeline? Now, you can ask people, how often do you have delays? But you also have to understand that these people want to work with you and they're in a little bit of a sales process, right? You're being sold to by your manufacturer. So sometimes they can give you information that might not be accurate up front because they're just trying to make the sale. So understanding, yes, the reliability is really huge, but you can kind of ask some questions. How often are there delays? What usually creates delays in-house? And how do you handle any production issues? But again, it's in a sales process, so you do have to be kind of careful here. The next one is consistency. Of course, if you're already getting something manufactured, you will know this. You might not know this right up front, but you just want to know that there is consistency in the product quality. So I wouldn't just get one sample. I would get 5 or 10 samples to make sure that they're consistently creating something of quality, because you can get one sample and that sample looks fine. But when they create it in mass quantities, it doesn't look as great. So we want to make sure that they have consistency in product quality. So I would request more than 5 to 10 samples prior to actually going with them. Scalability, this is kind of going back to the reliability one, but I want to know that they can grow with you, because it doesn't make sense for you to choose a manufacturer just because they have low MOQs, minimum order quantities. And then when you need bigger minimum order quantities, when your business inevitably picks up, you then have to change manufacturers. It is a pain to change manufacturers later. I would rather you just pick a good one from the start. The next one is a specialization. I personally would rather work with somebody deeply specialized in what I am creating, that they are exclusively in this bucket. Now, you can have some manufacturers that are kind of generalists, that they just work with this type of product or they just work with this type of material and they can kind of adjust it. But usually the best manufacturers are really in one category. So just understand that if you want them to be very good at what they do, it's better to choose kind of a specialist rather than a generalist manufacturer. And you have to be careful if they're claiming that they can do absolutely everything, because odds are they might be good at 1 or 2 of those things, but not actually all of them. So I care about how much are they actually really good at what I'm asking them to do. Protection of your brand, I think, is a really big one here. Will they protect your formulas, your molds, your patterns, your colors, your designs, whatever? I want these people to have your designs, but they also can't sell them to other people. They can't sell them to other companies. Some of that comes with a price, and sometimes it's not actually possible depending on your industry, but understanding that oftentimes protection of your brand assets is very helpful in that contracting process. Because again, right now you're like, it's not that big of a deal. Who's trying to steal my formulation? But think about in 3 years or 5 years, when you get really big, people try to hunt down who's manufacturing your product. And then they can basically say, hey, I just want to white label that product you're already making. Because for a manufacturer, it's really easy for them to just put your product in other packaging for their company. So if you don't have exclusive rights to your designs, your molds, your patterns, whatever, they very easily can just allow your formulations to go elsewhere. So it's just something to think about. If that doesn't scare you, that's fine. It's not something that you have to worry about, but it is a really big one. The next one is definitely transparency. Good manufacturers really should communicate problems and issues and answers clearly. You do want these people, again, to be kind of an open book. Problems are going to arise in manufacturing. You're going to have delays. You're going to have issues. You're going to have some bumps in the road, no matter what. And you just want a manufacturer that's going to be open and honest with you about what's going on. You don't really want them to hide those problems until too late. If it's okay, I'm going to interrupt this podcast for 30 quick seconds to let you know about the Founders Cafe. It is my completely free podcast community where you can gain access to bonus resources, gain access to me and free coaching calls, as well as build a network of other business owners just like yourself. Business ownership is a lonely game, and we might as well build community, build a network, and have a space to collaborate. We can bring this conversation and all the other conversations we have on this podcast over into this free podcast community and make this a two-way street. I would love to answer your questions there, connect with you, see you on our next free coaching call. Click the link in the show notes and you'll find the link there. So first things first, I want you to kind of decide on your non-negotiables. Of course, you have to decide on what your values are and what you're absolutely not willing to waver on. Your second one is going to be really just understanding the manufacturing process, because I do think there's a lot of myths out there. There's a lot of myths that anything manufactured is low quality. There's a lot of myths that anything manufactured is unethical, unethically made. There's a lot of myths out there that anything manufactured is going to be way more expensive. Understanding that your manufacturing process can really look however you want it to look within reason. There are some limits for different industries, but you just have to kind of hunt for the proper option for you. Don't do it if you contact one manufacturer and their minimum order quantity was 10,000 units and you got scared away from manufacturers in general. There's plenty of manufacturers that will start small with you and also be able to scale with you. The next thing that you can do to kind of vet a manufacturer is looking at their certifications and their values. Now, it's really hard to ask a manufacturer about their values because, again, it's a sales process for them. And they know that if they answer the questions and it's not fit to your standards, that you're probably going to go elsewhere. So there are some things here that if you just have an open conversation with them, they might not tell you truthfully how everything is being created, right? And so the certifications are a way to at least get a good baseline of what they have had to achieve in order to get these certifications. So there's certifications for safety, for labor certifications, sustainability, all sorts of things that you can go to your manufacturer and ask what are their certifications. GMP is a big safety one. Fair trade certified is a big ethical labor certification. There's a RAP certification, which is really big on the ethical labor side. There's B Corp, even like getting something organic, if it is truly certified organic, it shows that they are taking a little bit more care with everything that they're doing. So asking them if they do have any of these certain certifications based on your values. This is where what you care about really matters and what that all really looks like. So when I look at like a quick vetting checklist for you, I would say A, are they responsive in your communication? B, does it seem like they're organized and transparent in their communication with you? They remember what you were talking about. They know what this process looks like. Do their timelines and their lead times seem realistic? A big question that I like to ask is, what is your lead time? How quickly, when I give you a design, will you have it in the mail and shipped off to me? What are your average shipping times and what does that really look like? Because really the major things here is we want to look at ethics and standards. We want to look at communication. We want to look at flexibility And we want to look at minimum order quantities, at least to start to be able to see, how is this actually really possible? Is this something that we can scale with? Is this something that we want to communicate with them and we feel like is accurate? And of course, the quality is a really big one as well. Are the timelines realistic? Do samples feel high quality? Can they explain their process as clearly as possible? Again, this is a business for them. They probably aren't going to break down step by step of how your product is created. I've had clients come back and say, hey, Maddie, I asked my manufacturer this question and they just didn't want to answer it. And it's because it is a business for them. Just like if somebody came to you while you were hand making your product and say, can you give me a step-by-step of how you make this? You're probably not going to answer it because you're afraid that they're going to go out and just make it themselves, right? So yes, you want to understand what their process looks like, but we more so are worried about what is the shipping process? What is the lead time? And of course, how are these actually being made? Is it, with chemicals? Is it with sustainable materials or whatever that kind of looks like for your brand? Are they willing to protect your IP? Can they scale with you? Do they specialize in your category? Do they have proof of past work? This is another big one in the initial conversation, that you can ask them for proof of past work and they'll send you a picture. Are they pressuring you into huge MOQs immediately? If they are, asking if you have any flexibility. And do they feel stable and professional? Does this feel like a company that you want to really partner with? Because I want you to go into getting something manufactured under the guise of this is a partnership, that they are in your business. They basically have everything that they need to knock off your product, and you are going to be working with them consistently. They are basically going to be a major partner in your inventory. Is this somebody that you do want to work with? So what I would really recommend here is just having open conversations and asking a lot of questions early on. First step is I would go on a website trying to find manufacturers. You can find them directly. You can find them on Alibaba. There isn't like a super easy, clean way to do it. Alibaba isn't overly user friendly, but it is an option. And Alibaba has photos and videos of the factory. But of course, those photos and videos, you never know if what's in the photos and videos is what it actually looks like on the normal day to day. So I do like to dig a little bit deeper. If you have strong ethical values in certain areas, or different values that are in ethics or the working conditions or the materials and things like that, you never will really know, really truly, unless you go and visit. But that's why a lot of founders do go and vet their manufacturers in person. But what I really care about is A, your non-negotiables, looking at your values. B, how quickly are they communicating with you? C, do we like the quality of their product? D, are they able to be flexible with you? At least like how much are they willing to work with you? Because if they are being very rigid, they're going to be rigid probably forever. And so I get it, but they have to be able to work with you within reason. And then, of course, if you own your products, like, do you own the IP of what they're creating, or do they still have the access there? Now, talking about a quick fire red flags that I just want you to at least keep in mind. Slow communication before payment, probably not very great. Vague answers to questions that when you're asking them, they're just kind of like almost talking around the question, because people that are confident in their answers are probably going to answer them directly, right? Inconsistent samples, refusing NDAs altogether. Now, again, that's within reason. There are some industries that it isn't possible for them. There's many major brands out there that their products are not covered under exclusivity. You can find them on Alibaba. You can find them all over the internet. That's why dupes happen of companies, is because they literally are the exact same product being made by a manufacturer with just slight differences. Constant pricing changes, huge MOQ pressure immediately, no reference or proof of past purchases, unrealistic promises. If they're promising you the world, if they say we can do anything that you want us to create, we can make that. You have to be very careful here. You do want somebody that is just realistic and transparent. Poor communication, hidden fees, dodging questions, refusing factory photos and videos is usually not good. I have had some clients ask if they can, like, on a Post-it note, write today's date and just walk around with the Post-it note just so they can see that this is what it looks like on an average day to day, and not when it was like a staged video or photo shoot that's on their website. I just want to make one major mindset shift here, is that all manufacturers, there's a couple mindset shifts. All manufacturers are bad or unethical. That is not the case. There are so many great manufacturers out there. You can get things manufactured in the US without a doubt, but you also can get things manufactured well overseas. You just have to do the vetting of what actually matters to you. What are the things that actually do truly have to be there? What are your non-negotiables? You can find really great manufacturers. Many brands find really great manufacturers overseas. And that can go from quality of product, that can go from working conditions of employees, the values that they have, the formulations can be very consistent and quality. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be a cheap knockoff product. Many of your favorite brands, products, companies out there are using products that are manufactured overseas. So if they can do it and you love their product, you can do it as well. And it's absolutely possible for you. Just understand that cheapest is not always the best option. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes that founders make, is that they're just looking for the cheapest manufacturer, because it often becomes expensive later. Whether it be delays or defects or refunds, not happy customers, reformulations of things, or inventory issues, you would be better off making sure that your product is really great and having it be slightly more expensive per product and adjusting your pricing and your branding accordingly. Saving money up front means nothing if it costs you trust and customer loyalty later on. And if you get a run of a manufacturer just because you think that it's the cheapest and the best option, understanding that you might get those boxes and you might not be happy with the product. And then you just have to go to another manufacturer and buy it again. So you would be better off finding a manufacturer that you really love, properly vet them, properly look at their samples, get multiple samples for each of them, make sure there's consistency there, and picking the one that actually truly feels like high quality and it fits all of your standards. There's so many manufacturers out there. Don't feel like you have to settle. It really should make your business feel more stable, not more chaotic. You will have just a box of product delivered at your door, and you will be able to feel more stable in your business. Operational constant chaos is not actually normal from the manufacturer side. I know some of you guys have manufacturers already, and I just wanted to kind of cover what some of the major red flags are of maybe you do want to switch, because switching manufacturers might be a pain, as I've said, but it does avoid some of these issues. Just know that there's better out there. And I know some of you might have grown your business and you're still hand making your product. I have plenty of companies that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars that have handmade products for a lot of years. And now they're starting to think about a manufacturer. There is a hierarchy of manufacturers, but there are really great options out there for you. All of these myths and stigma around manufacturing doesn't necessarily have to be there. The right manufacturing partner can completely change the trajectory of your business, open up so many doors, so much time for you to actually work on the business instead of in the business and on all of the things. This is one of the most important relationships in your company. Don't rush it, and don't pick one just because you want it done. Treat it with respect. This is really such an important conversation to have when it comes to products, because it's one that people don't often talk about. And I realize it's a little touchy. I realize it's something, but of course it's a conversation that I want to bring you directly, because I know I get asked this question so often by my clients, by people in my community, by my podcast listeners. People are really interested in manufacturers, but it feels like this elusive world, and it doesn't have to be. So this is the process that I would go through. Basically, choose your non-negotiables, reach out to a bunch of manufacturers, ask them the proper questions and vet them, get a bunch of samples. And then once you kind of choose, like narrow it down from 1 to 2, ask them the rest of the questions and make sure that you do really like to work with these people, and go from there. Pick the one that you really want to grow with. And that is really what matters. I hope this was helpful for you. This is another Coaching Sessions episode. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. And I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Business Growth Podcast. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. So if you love this one, make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss a conversation. If you want more conversations with me and other business owners, make sure that you join our completely free podcast community, the Founders Cafe. The link is in the show notes. You can get bonus resources, access to free coaching calls, as well as connect with like-minded business owners like yourself. Make sure that you rate and review the podcast 5 stars, share it with a friend to keep those conversations moving, and come back every Tuesday and Friday. I'll see you there.